What is up, my beautiful Eggy peeps? We finally made it to episode 11. Fluff and I have another one in the can. Here it is. 800-pound gorilla in the room. You want to know what it is? It's Mike, and I said stuff I probably shouldn't have said, but it's out there now. We let the conversation flow. I didn't edit it, so we're keeping it real. Here we go. And oh, it's too good. All right, my fellow Eggy peeps, welcome to another show. It's episode 11 this time with Bud here and now with Bud and Fluff. And cutting right to the chase. Say hi, Fluff.
Hi, Fluff.
All right. So cutting right to the chase, there's an elephant in the room that I think we need to talk about, and that's Mike. And so now that the band is on a little hiatus, I think Mike has been on everybody's mind since the moment we got the notice. And there's a lot to talk about with it, and I think a lot of people are afraid to talk about it. You and I have gone around and around on this a little bit, and I think we should bring our discussion public, to tell you the truth. So with that, I want to say that I have some fears. You know, I love the guys, and I feel like I know them, but I don't know if Mike is coming back or not, and that's, you know, scares the shit out of me. But I try to balance that with, hey, you know, other bands have survived, you know, but it won't. I don't know. And so but on the other hand, and forgive me for rambling, I do think Mike is coming back, and I do think everything is going to be okay, but I don't know. And so I've been trying to adopt your ironically more positive mindset, but it's been hard. So what are you thinking about Mike?
Well, you know, I'm glad you wanted to talk about this because I wanted to talk about it. As you know, I've been talking people down pretty much since the news came out. I think that the key thing here to think about is energy. And so whether or not it ties into that, I think everything kind of does tie into energy. Mike's energy was a little bit off, obviously, so he had to take some time to go work on that. And you know, but I think it's just as critical that the energy that we're all putting out towards this is positive, is uplifting, and is pointing in the direction that we want to see things go. Now, I'll say that I think Mike's coming back. I've never had a doubt, and I'll have lots of reasons that I think that. But going back to the idea of energy, it's very easy to fall into a place of worry because I do that with just about everything in my life. Somehow I didn't do it here. And so if that day comes, then that'll be the day to get really, really sad and to, you know, have to evaluate, what does this mean? How does it change things? But that's not energy any of us should be feeling right now, because it's not going to help anybody, and it's not going to get us where we want to go. So my thing was like, you know, there's no reason to think otherwise. And so keep that positive, and let's see where we end up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not pre-sad, right? I'm like, and to your point, I mean, we're both kind of anxious creatures, I think more anxious than most, but although we don't show it very much. But I've just had so many swirling thoughts. And, you know, there's reinforcements from the band coming where they are on stage talking about him and stuff. And I guess one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is because they've got a September 4th date looming, which to me seems to have to be a 4-piece act. Like, there's no way shouldn't say there's no way, but I feel like there's a lot of pressure on them to be a 4-piece band for that event. And so I mean, what does that
well, let's take a look at that. Let's take a step back, because the September 4th date in Baltimore is a free show that was just pretty recently announced. So I'm not sure actually how long it had been planned, but it was very recently announced. And that's kind of a short lead time compared to what we usually get. But it's a free show. Nobody's paying to go to that show. So in my mind, that means there's no expectations on that show. Now, do I personally think they would have taken that date if they didn't think he was going to be back? No, I don't think so. I think that if you're gonna be looking forward, you're probably not gonna book anything until you know what you've got.
A free show doesn't mean no contractual obligations, you know. And when they signed, they probably were a 4-piece. And so I wonder. And so you're right. I think you're right on a few points, but at the same time, neither one of us I mean, really, it's not healthy to fill in the blanks, right? Because neither one of us have the insight. And so, but with a lack of information, not that I'm saying the band isn't communicating well, because when they're on stage, they're talking about it, but it's just, there's questions, and so
well, let's break that down for a minute, because I'm sure a lot of other people have the same questions. So they've came right out and told us what was going on. Now, either you can choose to take that as face value, as the truth, or people, and I don't blame anyone in this day and age for taking that and going, okay, well, I'm sure there's more that they're not telling us, because that's just about every aspect of everything we always get told nowadays, is I'm sure there's more that they're not telling us. Well, I have no reason not to take these guys at their word. And as we touched on in the last episode, this band has always been on the forefront, if you will, of being open and talking about mental health, and just it's so on brand for them to do it that I don't think it's a cover for something. Now, you made a point too. We don't know. And we don't know. And it's not healthy, and it's not good energy to fill in the blanks, right? It's like you said it. So, I think that it's just, we have to take what they said at face value. Mike's having a rough time. We talked about it in the last episode. I was too. You've been there. A lot of people have been there, whether they want to admit it or not. You give someone the space, and that's the other piece of this. They said, the privacy that he deserves to go through this. That's why I've never asked anybody anything. It's just show him our love, show him our support is all we can do right now. Assume he'll be back because they told us. And, if a day comes, we get a different announcement, a different news, we'll come back and we'll record a different episode.
I don't know. I was looking back at other bands and band members that have left, going even back to Pigpen and the Grateful Dead. Of course, he left, he took a hiatus first, and then, left, but and that was for different reasons. I don't think Mike is a 27-year-old alcoholic with cirrhosis, but look at you and I, right? You and I here trying to do something quote unquote creative, as lame as that is compared to actual art. And even we've had little discussions about how, no, it should go this way, it should go that way. I can't imagine the creative tension between people trying to put out the product that they put out. And so those pressures and everything else, just, I don't know. I wonder, I have a lot of questions, none of which will be answered, but I felt like, I bumped into a lot of, or talked online with a lot of Eggy fans in the past couple of weeks, and it's just been on everybody's mind. So I thought we should spend some time on that. And with that, I don't know what else there really is to say. I think you encapsulated it well with the right outlook of, hey, I'll worry about it when it happens, but that's so unlike you.
Well, let's look at September 4th, because Eggy means the world to me, man. And because, I am going to keep the most positive attitude I can about things that mean the most to me, obviously. But, take a step back.
That's why you love me so much.
Exactly. Take a step back to the September 4th date. Let's assume, so if Mike does come back for that show, he's been gone a month. That's almost an exact month. And so, is that a reasonable amount of time to get someone's life together? Well, who knows? I mean, we don't know. We can't know. We won't know. I don't want to know. I just want Mike back when he's ready. And if they show up at that date as a 3-piece, well, I just saw 3 of the shows on that tour with Mo, even though they were 45-minute sets. They were some of the most enjoyable Eggy sets that I've been part of. I know how hard it must have been for the guys, but they still showed nothing but professionalism, stepped up there, and threw out some amazing performances.
I think that September 4th is going to be a huge tell on Mike, right? And so, are they? What are the possibilities? One of the people in our text group, I think, was pretty genius, even though it was kind of the thought of anybody else taking that slot is kind of grating in a way. It kind of it's like a cheese grater going across my emotions, right? I don't like it. I don't like the thought of it. I don't like talking about it. But who could take his place? Well, honest to God, I don't mean take his place forever. I mean, sit in while he's getting better, right? CJ is a bass player.
Unspeakable. Unspeakable. We shall not speak of it. I shall not speak of it. Unspeakable. saying?
That is outrageous.
You are outrageous.
What? What did that mean? What did he just say? And so I had to be told.
He knows all the songs. He's been in the van for every conversation. He knows the guys intimately. He hangs out with them in his free time, for crying out loud. So could he be a fill-in? Sure, I bet he could be. God, would they ever? Probably not. I don't know. This is like the fan band wall, right? Where it is like you just don't know anything.
Well, you're doing something, you're almost, I'm going to stretch a little, you're filling in blanks. Who would fill in? Don't fill in the blanks. That's Mike's spot. And no one stands in it until Mike says otherwise. And
tisk on me, right?
I mean, I personally wouldn't want to see it. I would not want to see that. I don't know that it would be the worst thing that could ever happen. But it's just something that doesn't even appeal to me. That's not what I don't think that's what they even want to do. I think to feel like there would be such a need to put someone back in that spot when they just show they can go out and perform to a great level as a trio, or perhaps by bringing a guest out here and there as well. I mean, there's, if it's a month, great. If it's 2 months, if it starts going longer, yes, it's going to bring up more questions. But in a way, like you said, it's a huge tell, September 4th, but I don't want that day to come. And if for some reason it just hasn't all lined up and he's just not quite back yet, maybe he's 3 days away, but you're not going to rush it. And so I don't want everyone to get to that. And if he's not there, I'd be like, well, that's it. He's gone.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I meant about that cheese grater thing. Like, I don't want to talk about it, but I don't want to, like they say, you're going to talk about things to get them out of your system, right? Like here's the thing. Some people don't even have an internal dialogue. Like, I don't even know what that's like to not
I don't believe that.
Me neither, right? Like, I constantly have multiple soundtracks, voices going in my head about, this and that and this and that constantly. Like right now, I'm like rehearsing my conversation for when my wife gets back from Maine today, and it's just, I don't know how people can't not do that. I don't know. I guess we have 8-track minds, right? But when it comes to audio, internal audio, but my internal dialogue sometimes just needs to come out in order for me to put it to rest, So I feel better now that I talked about it.
Well, and our imaginations can get going, and then you will always have people who like to start rumors because they think it's fun. I mean, it's, I knew that this was going to be a challenging time, not just for the band, but for the fans as well. And so I feel like, like I said in our last episode, I ran to 3 shows as fast as I could to show them my face and show my support. I think they wanted to see that. I think that they acknowledged to us how much our just general support has meant to them. And so I don't think they could have asked for a better fan base to go through this with. And I don't think we could have asked for a better band to go through this with. And I believe those 4 guys are destined to be together for a long, long time. Just like the first band I dedicated my life to and switched up for these guys. So this 4, you started to talk about it earlier, the pressures of creating, right? I don't think that the 4 of them have ever felt that for a second. I think they have nothing but a good time. I mean, yes, it's work. But if anything, the grind is just being on the road as much as they are and being away from family and friends as much as they are and being in that constant need to keep proving yourself. I think that's probably going to wear on them more than the creating, but I think those guys create in their sleep.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was the wisdom, of their lyrics at such a young age. Like, how is it? And so I've heard all of these songs. So let me back up a minute. When life is going good, like, you hear things one way. And when you have experiences that cause frustration or pain, you hear things a different way. And so having Mike not be there and seeing the body language and the hurt that the guys are wearing on their sleeve makes me listen to the songs differently. And my God, these songs come from, almost all of these songs come from a place of pain. There's plenty of affirmations and things like that in the songs, and there's plenty of hope in the songs. But there are experiences in those songs that are just from they can only be from pain, and so they are so wise beyond their years. It's amazing.
Well, and I think that they're probably what you just said ties into why this has happened in a way. I think that if anyone is going to be able to look at their bandmates just sitting across from a dinner table, not even having to have a serious conversation and know something's not right, it's going to be these guys with each other. And they're so close and what they've been through and, what just with their history and everything, it's not something that they're going to take lightly. And I think anyone could probably guess that a lot of bands that are out there are never going to let a guy take this kind of time for himself to just walk away and say, I need to worry about me, because, it'll sound cliche to some people, but if he's not at his best, they can't be at their best. Right. So it's all intertwined, but those four are family more than I think I've ever seen four guys in a band be. And so,
yeah,
I have no fears. I have no doubts. And however it plays out is exactly how it's going to have to play out. And so I guess that's the other piece that just gives me some comfort in knowing that I'm pretty sure since the second this was announced, Mike's going to be back better than ever. We're going to be talking about, remember how cool it was when they had to do 3-piece for a while? It was neat, right? But, we don't know. And like I said, if the day comes, we have to have a different conversation, we'll have it. But I don't think we will be, buddy.
Yeah. That's fair. And that's why we wanted to talk about it. I know there's got to be other people that are like us and are, playing out scenarios and things like that. Like, I'm like, are they, working with some bass player on Zoom right now and they're just going to pop some guy on stage because Mike's in some ayahuasca retreat in Costa Rica and he's never coming back? You know what I mean? Like, he figured out how to live on $5,000 a year and fucking, some far away country. And he's just like, see you guys, man, I'm going to go play my stand-up acoustic bass on the beach and live in a palm hut. I just don't know. So I hope he won the lottery. Maybe that's why he's not around.
Well, if he figured that out, then he better tell us all where it is, because we'll be with him. But no, I mean, I think you and I, if anyone was going to have these conversations, you and I were two people that for sure were, because this band means so much. We've given a lot of ourselves to them and to putting our time and our energy and our passion into them. So it's obviously going to affect us one way or the other. But, you had told me when you were in Rochester, you kind of picked up on you could feel almost their emotion up on the stage. When I was in Fort Wayne, I mean, I could have said I saw the same thing, but I also saw Jake and Alex crack the hugest smiles at each other at one point during a jam. So it made me know that they were okay, that they were enjoying what they were doing. No, was it ideal? No. I mean, it wasn't what they wanted to be doing, but I really think they made the most of it as best as we could have asked for,
Yeah, I saw him off stage in Rochester, and Jake was pretty somber. Donnie was pretty quiet. Alex was, pretty much unfazed by the moment, it seemed. But yeah, and so I guess that's really all I got on that stuff. What else do we have? The upcoming September 4th show. You going to that? Oh, I know what I was going to say is, I'm doing this thing, 5 minutes with a super fan, where I'm asking everybody to give a message to the band, and I'm discounting them ahead of time and saying, listen, don't say get well, Mike, because that's on everybody's mind. But I did kind of want to just wrap this part up by just saying, to anybody that's out there listening, we got to send our vibes to Mike. And, I don't know if telling him that you love him right now will help or hurt, but I think he knows. And we all just need to keep him on our minds.
I know he knows.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about the last couple shows you were at.
I'll tell you what's wild. The one thing that really stood out to me is, and I guess any touring band can probably tell you some crazy stories, but the difference in what a venue can be like from night to night on a tour. I wonder how many times that's caused, a band to just stop and just do a double take, or even just wonder how that can happen. So last Thursday I went to Fort Wayne to see them, and it was at the Sweetwater amphitheater. Now, are you familiar with that company? It's a music equipment company. I didn't put it all together until we were standing there and Donnie made a comment. Do you know that name?
I only knew it after I looked up the promoter of the thing, and yeah, so that must have been interesting. And I want you to also talk about, you went alone, right? So you got to touch on that.
Yeah, I rolled a solo
Yeah.
show. I hadn't done that in a while. I go to pretty
Yeah.
much all the shows with my wife when I do travel. But
Right.
I
But
popped a
what about
solo.
Sweetwater? Yeah,
What's
what
that?
about Sweetwater now? What about Sweetwater now, though?
So yeah, so this was basically a venue that was in the employee parking lot of a giant business, which I guess makes musical equipment and some of the equipment that Eggy actually uses. So during the song or during the part where he was talking, Donnie, he says, my keyboard feels so back at home. So, but it was a parking lot, talk about a concrete jungle type of situation. It was like, looked like a half an airplane hangar that had just been put up, nailed to the ground, with some fences around it. And, there's some grass fields around and stuff, but it was such a weird feeling, venue wise. I don't even want to call it a venue. It was like an employee party.
Right. So typically before a show, I will go on Google Earth or, look at satellite photos, kind of see if I can spot parking lots and things like that. When I checked that place out, I said, okay, was it Indiana, right? I'm like, it's a cornfield basically that's been mowed behind a warehouse is what it looked like from the sky, right? And then you could see like this roof that you could tell didn't have walls. It was like this giant like shed where they stored their I thought maybe, who knows what, pallets or something, right? And then boom, there's a concert there. I said, oh, this is going to be interesting.
It was wild. Now it was an okay vibe still. I mean, they had a couple food trucks and a food and drink station set up, and the the hangar thing provided shade, which was helpful. So at least you had that. But yeah, it was just interesting because everyone just kind of filed into that, underneath that thing and just kind of stood there on the concrete and, concrete jungle, like I said. But it was.
That's too funny. I'm looking at your background of East Pomfret, and I'm saying to myself, that was such a well-run thing, and nothing is good or bad except by comparison, right? And
yes,
everything else is just subpar now. Like anything we
and
go to,
and I'm glad you pointed that out too, because if anyone hadn't noticed yet, my background is a picture from the thing in Vermont, which I never left in my mind. So I figured it would be good to just physically plant myself right back there for this episode. Right. So I drove home that night actually from Fort Wayne. It's only about 3 hours back to my house in Ohio. So I drove home that night after the show, and then the next night they were playing in Cleveland Heights at a place called Kane Park, which is just a big park up in a Cleveland suburb. And now I walked into this place, and I'd been to the Kane Park area before because I grew up around there, but I'd never seen a concert there. I didn't realize they had what they had there. And I walked in, and it was like this natural amphitheater built into the trees and grass, and it was just beautiful. And it was just like, I felt like I was in Pompeii for half a minute. It was just like old and grown in. And I was just like, this is so amazing. And it was such a cool setting. The band kind of like, they had a great set there too. We got a debut that night and everything. So now I think they were definitely feeling that energy, but I couldn't have been at two more different places within a 24-hour period seeing the band. And it's kind of weird because, when you stop and look around sometimes, like, where am I? Because I'm so focused on the band and I'm so focused on people at the show. And, it's kind of like when you realize the areas that you see shows in sometimes can be super, super cool or super, super strange.
Yeah, I'm I guess bummed is the word for not being able to see him for a little while now, because I am one of the spoiled Eggy fans that gets to see him a lot, but it's going to be a few weeks now, and yeah, I'm already jonesing a little bit. So
you're off till the 26th in West Virginia?
Yeah, we leave so I have jury duty on the 23rd, which kind of makes me a little nervous because, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to talk to, I have a friend who's a judge. I'm going to ask him. No, I can't even say that now. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to get myself disqualified somehow or another so that I don't have to get dragged into some long trial or anything. But we leave the 24th to head down to Fayetteville, West Virginia for the Gorge show. And then we're doing all of the Hornsby ones. It ends up coming back, they go from Washington, D.C. to Burlington, Vermont. So we'll be able to literally have, the hotel at 16 Arthur, the manor at 16 Arthur Street will be our hotel for one night as we head up to Burlington. So that's going to work out. And then, yeah, then we're toying with doing that Texas run. So.
Well, you know me, like we joked about last time with the show count and me forever chasing you and never catching you. Feel free to take off as much time as you'd like. I have no issues. You know, I hit Paw. You took it right back with Rochester. I put 2 on the board with Fort Wayne and Cleveland, which is great. And I'm going to try to hit Baltimore, but you're going to put them all right back on that Hornsby tour. So it's so much fun. I like to just goof about it with you. It's a blast.
Wow. Well, here's the ultimate tease for you then. You'll never catch me until you do a jam cruise, kid.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
So hey, you still got to get on that boat, buddy.
Yes, I do. But I expect to see you on the next one.
Maybe one of these years. Cruise is just, well, we could do a whole episode on that. Let's do that next time.
Yeah, that's okay. That's actually probably a good note to wrap it up on. So, Eggy peeps, on our next episode, we will get further into Bud and Fluff's fears of things that float and shouldn't, and other issues with confinement and removal from land and things like that we're learning to overcome because of love for a band. So imagine that.
Well, you know what they can teach you most importantly to help you get on that boat is just how to let go. So ask them to let you let go of those fears and those worries. And that's what I wanted to talk about today. Maybe we'll hop back on later. I wanted to talk about letting go because that is a thing. But
we definitely we're up against the clock at this point. I don't want to bore people. Our average listening time is like, some people watch all the way to the end, but our average on the last couple of shows has been like 8 minutes. So if it's 30 and you're getting, a bunch of people watching the whole end and then a bunch of people watching 5 minutes. So I'm going to try and put a couple of hooks in the front. But with all that, we're going to sign off and talk about things that float next time.
There you go, buddy.
Float, isn't that a Stephen King thing? And we'll talk about letting me and you let go at the same time. All right. With that, love y'all, peeps. Peace out.
Like this, hit subscribe, ring that bell. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe. And only soon.